Welcome to She Asked, Tools for Practical Hope. I'm your host, Anna McBride, and I'm so excited that you're here. I am joined by my friend, Ann Cutbill Lenane, the founder of many things. Oh my gosh. Is it okay to say you are a real estate mogul?
Yeah, it would be. Queen of New York, actually, I think.
New York, that's right. With the tagline, Annie gets it done.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
awesome.
And I do.
You
I've been
do.
doing it for 43 years. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of getting it done.
When dinosaurs roamed the earth is when I started.
You certainly have built quite a community of many philanthropic means. The list is so long. One Block, Wise, Wonderful Women, God's Love We Deliver, EEO Bahamas, which we'll talk about, real estate, of course, and Impact 100 New York City, and Candlelighters New York City.
How do I have any time in the
I
day?
know, right? How do you get stuff done?
Exactly. And he gets it done just as exhausted.
Oh my goodness. So all of these seem like you've built quite a community dedicated to connection, learning, and meaningful conversation with
Right.
so many people, women particularly. We met, I think it's about 6 months ago, and what stood out to me the most is just how passionate you are about what you're doing. You bring people together, you engage them in some philanthropic thing, as well as just learning and growing from each other.
And the occasional pajama party.
And the occasional. Yeah, we were just at a retreat. It was very funny.
That's another thing.
But it's so thoughtful, so intentional, and with so much heart in it.
Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
really been quite a pleasure to watch all of this unfold and learn all of this about you. And so on this podcast, we like to begin with a story. And
Okay.
so seeing as how this is Heart Health Month, I'd love for us to start hearing your story around your heart episode. So tell us what happened.
Right. So my Wise and Wonderful Women meetings have been going on for 80 women once a month, focusing on women 50 and older to empower and educate them. But every year I would have a female cardiologist come in and would sit down for the last 6 years and drill into our heads that women are going to be treated differently when they walk into an ER or a doctor's office, often gaslit, dismissed, told they're working too much, they're nervous. They would never say that to a man. And the statistics are very clear. 1 out of 3 women dies of heart disease in this country. 1 out of 3. We're all running out and getting our mammograms every year. But only 1 out of 33 women dies of breast cancer. So this is really a big deal. So the cardiologist would say, listen, your symptoms are also going to be different. Oftentimes, women hesitate, not wanting to bother anybody. So all of this was in my head for 6 years, every year. And I was in the Netherlands, and I was at a retreat, and I was by myself. And I started to have a really bad reaction, and I could not breathe. I just couldn't breathe. And it was a shooting pain in my chest. It wasn't the shooting on the left thing. And like all of a sudden, I was like, I'm having a heart attack. But I couldn't breathe. And I was really just having a hard time catching my breath. And then it was in my back, between my shoulder blades. And when I tried to get help and say, I really need for you to call somebody, I was dismissed. You need to go get some air. Why do you think this is coming up? Do you have emotion? And I kept repeating, I've got high cholesterol. I've got a history of clots. I really thought that I was having probably like an embolism, pulmonary embolism, where I had clots. But I knew something was wrong. And I had the craziest thing. Prior to starting that evening at the retreat, I had grabbed my phone. I felt like I needed my phone. And I have a code on it, and it only goes on when you hit the numbers. But my phone went on to a podcast that Christina Applegate was talking to, I think, her co-host on the podcast about women have to advocate for themselves, and it does not matter if they think you're a hypochondriac, but you must do it. And it didn't just play once. It was on a reel, and it kept playing and playing, and I couldn't get it off my phone. And so here I am, unable to breathe, with them dismissing me and saying, it's okay, you're just nervous. And I kept thinking her voice, you've just got to advocate. So, long story short, it was 8 hours before I got proper care. This is with people walking me around, telling me that the EMT people, the men telling me to breathe into a paper bag as though I was doing yoga. When the EMT people got there were three men, and they did a bunch of tests, and they did an EKG, and they said, it's not your heart. And I'm like, and I said, they were leaving and they were packing up their stuff to go. And in the Netherlands, you can't just walk into the ER. You have to be brought by the ENTs. And I had already been told that. So I knew if they left me, I was probably going to die. And as they were walking out the door, I grabbed the older man's hands, and I just grabbed his hand and I looked at him and I said, please don't leave me here. I said, is there anybody else that you can call? And they were speaking in Dutch. They make a call. I hear a woman on the other phone, on the other end of the phone. And I hear her say, put her on the phone. And I start to give her a little bit of, I have a history of clots. And she said, I've heard enough. Bring her in. Once I was in the hospital, it was another 2 hours. And just leaving me in the room, I wasn't attached to anything. It was insane. And it is not, unfortunately, that I was in the Netherlands. Because I knew that this was something that happens to women all over the world, and it happens in our country too. My cardiologist spoke to the doctors, imploring them to run the proper tests. And the tests are, when you get to the hospital, you must have them run a troponin. It is a test that tests for enzymes that your heart releases if you're having a heart attack. That's simple. It's a blood test. Boom. It's back in half an hour. There's also a thing called D-dimer, and a D-dimer will see if you have any clots that are happening. And those are the two tests. They're simple. You should have them as soon as you walk in the door. So 8 hours later, when one of the nurses finally came back in, and I said, listen, the tests have to be back by now. What are you talking? Please, can you check the screen? And one of the women had come with me from the retreat, and I saw his face look at the screen, and then he ran out. And I said to her, and I'm thinking, the screen's in Dutch, right? I said to the woman sitting with me, because I'm on the table, I said, take a picture. Take my phone, take the picture. And she takes a picture of the screen, and I immediately send it to my cardiologist. And then I start looking at it, and it was in English, actually. And I start looking at it, and I start Googling, what's this? And simultaneously, my cardiologist is writing, you're having a heart attack. I was in the middle of a heart attack for 8 hours. Oh. They had to transfer me to another hospital. They ended up having to put a stent in my chest because my heart had torn at that point for 8 hours of having it like boom. And the crazy thing was, after 5 days in the hospital and my daughters having to fly across the country, across the Atlantic to get to me, which was horrible for them and horribly traumatic for them because I'm really all they have. When they released me, they gave me a list of medications that I was supposed to be taking, and I followed it and went to the pharmacy and got them. But unfortunately, during the translation, maybe, or they just forgot it, they released me with the most important thing that you have to take when you have a heart attack, which is a beta blocker. And a beta blocker makes sure that your heart doesn't go up. It keeps it in this safe zone because you've had a heart attack. I have a new stent. I can't have my heart going like this. And the heart has a stent in it, and it's going to start like racing and going around and not be very stable. So here I am in Amsterdam. I had to stay because I couldn't fly across the Atlantic. And I'm trying to just make it as normal as I can for my kids. And they're freaking out because anytime I took a step, they're like thinking I'm going to die. But then I start having this heart rate and I know it's not right. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you just had a heart attack, calm down. But then I start realizing that I'm now in a different city. I'm 45 minutes away. The hospital where I was in Utrecht, not in Amsterdam. And I know that I can't walk into an ER in Amsterdam, right? Because you can't walk to an ER in a European socialized medicine. So I called the American embassy to try to say here, and they basically hang up on me. So I don't want to tell my kids that I feel like I'm having another heart attack because I don't want to freak them out. I can't really call an ambulance because I can't depend on them to take this seriously. So I call an Uber and I said, you know what? I think I'm feeling a little bit, and I take all the medications that I had. And so let's just take this Uber. And I remember looking out at this field because between the two cities, there's just cows and there's this green pasture, and saying, please God, let me not code right here or have a heart attack in the middle of this field in this Uber with my kids. But I just knew I needed to get back to that hospital. And I walk in And I say to my kids, I said, you know what? I think I probably should take a wheelchair because I didn't want to scare my kids. And that's what women do. We want to protect our kids. And I think I also was probably in denial that this was happening. Like, how could this be? Like, in my mind, like, you're just having an anxiety attack, because that's what I had been told this whole time. So they bring me upstairs and they put me on a monitor and they sit down and they say, little girl, that was the equivalent of little girl, you've had a heart attack. Of course you're nervous. And my daughter looks at the monitor and says, then how can you explain 160 heartbeat? A standing resting heartbeat of 160. Something's wrong. So after 2 days, they finally realized that they had not given me the medication that I needed, because they started to give it to me in the hospital, because that's protocol. And I started to feel better. I said, why am I feeling better? And I put the dots together with a friend of mine who was a patient advocate, because I kept saying, why am I feeling better now? And we went through what medication I was taking and not taking. We realized that's what it was. And there was no apology. There was a nurse that actually had been there that very first night when they had completely dismissed my symptoms of they're obvious a heart attack. She came up to my room 2 days later and she snuck in and she said, I just want to say I'm so sorry. And that's a big deal for anybody in the medical establishment, to say they were sorry. And because she saw the madness of that night. And the most important thing for me is what saved me is the knowledge that I had to keep pushing. And even though I questioned myself at some points, I really stayed firm in my belief that something was wrong and that I was going to push, that I had my doctor pushing for me, that I had my family behind me. But we all need to learn that when something's wrong, to trust your gut. And it doesn't matter if you seem crazy. So what? Go to the ER, because they're there anyway. They're actually waiting for people to come in. That's what they're doing. They're waiting for you. Come on in.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
So there was a woman that was supposed to be at the retreat that I spoke to on Thursday.
Yes.
That was having trouble breathing. And her male doctor, I don't want to male bash, but there's statistics about women that are treated by women doctors, actually men and women, that when you're treated by a female doctor, that actually the survival rate is higher. But he said, I'll see you next week. And when I spoke to her, I said, you're having trouble breathing, but you don't have congestion. You don't have a fever. Why do you say you're having the flu? And she said, because I'm really tired. And I said, if you're tired, if you have jaw pain, if you're having trouble breathing, if you're exhausted, like when you start to walk up a flight of stairs, or when you don't normally feel like that, listen to that. Yeah. Listen to that inner voice, and it's okay. You got to get it checked out.
So it really does seem like knowing your body and being able to advocate, as well as being able to be informed about what these symptoms are. I could say for myself, I don't know everything about that. That's not my experience. And so what did you need in that moment that you didn't yet know how to ask for?
Here's the thing. Women, when they are assertive, are called bitches. They're called aggressive. They're right. In that room with the EMTs especially, I'm navigating, I want them to like me. I don't want to be the aggressive New Yorker, but I need to advocate for what I need. I need them to like me. I don't want them to be angry at me. And listen, that's a dance that we all do with any medical professional, don't we? Because we don't want to question the authority. We want to give them that, but we also want to question authority. Because people make mistakes. Listen, in your job, you make mistakes. In my job, I make mistakes. Doctors can make mistakes, and they can dismiss stuff. And you can't think of them as holier than thou. So what I needed and what I had been given is permission to say, I know something's wrong and I'm sticking to my guns and I am not going to back down.
Okay, yeah. So not letting the authority rule the show. Listened and followed.
Right. And you have to navigate. You have to be strong, but you got to back out. You got to use humor. In real estate, I'm using cookies all the time to bribe the managing agents to give me information. You want to use sweet and sour. It's a little dance. And we shouldn't have to do that. That's the nature of the beast. Yeah. But that's why it's also really important to have somebody advocate for you. I was in a foreign country. I didn't have anybody until the very last minute, and she was really at a loss as to how to advocate for me. Yeah. So I had to do it for myself. Well, I'm very lucky. I've got my Suzanne Steinbaum, fantastic cardiologist, was on the phone with me across the Atlantic. It was a little scary.
I can only imagine. Wow, wow. So after the crisis passed, what lingered emotionally? Was there grief?
There wasn't grief. Interestingly enough, my mother and my grandmother had passed, but they both were at one point sitting next to me. And I remember seeing their fists clenched and them looking down. And there was a movie recently, Hamnet, that there's a little boy that dies. And when he's transitioning, sorry, spoiler alert, but when he's transitioning, he's in a dark room. And it was exactly what I was looking over them at this dark room. And so after this crisis, there was a feeling that I'm watched over all the time. I'm not afraid to die. I was never afraid to die. But it's cool that my mom and grandmother were watching over me and really saw them, felt them, and they were watching over me.
And you felt connected.
I felt connected and I still do.
Supported.
Yeah, 100%. I feel watched over and just very grateful, really grateful, and grateful for my daughters. They were in their early 20s and they said we didn't have anybody really else there for a good period of time. And I said, but you did it. You were smart and you got there and you asked the right questions and you're really the people that I wanted there and that they have learned from me. Because oftentimes they'll say, Mom, he's a doctor or she's a doctor. And I'm like, so what? Does it make any sense to you?
Yeah, I think challenging authority is a challenge for most people and women particularly. As you mentioned earlier, this whole idea about being too pushy or bitchy versus just being seen as self-advocating.
It's also, they are in control. If you ever been in a hospital or had a family member, like those nurses, those doctors have control of your destiny. It's really hard. It's a tough position. What is so important, and again, my community. So I believe that we must connect. We must help, we must empower, we must educate. And so the important thing here is that I did put two and two together with it because of one of my wise and wonderful women who was a patient advocate who I picked up the phone and called. And there was a whole bunch of different people that came into my life that I put it out there and that help came in and it really, from across the Atlantic, was really helping me. It's important to share this information. It's important to have a community. That's the best of social media, right? To be able to post something and then immediately you'll get a response. But there's 2,000 women now on the Wise and Wonderful Women mailing list. And I just feel that there's nothing that we're going through that we can't reach out and get help with. And I think it's important for all of us to share what we're going through as much as we can, because then we don't feel so alone. And you're more empowered to advocate for yourself when the more information that you have. You're going to advocate in a vacuum? Like, you're not a doctor.
No, we're stronger together.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How did your relationship with your heart, both literally and
Right.
metaphorically, change?
There's one thing I will tell you must have. My calcium score, which is a baseline, certainly at 50, you should have it. If you've got any heart disease in your family, you should have it before. What it is, a CAT scan of your heart, and it shows your plaque. So I was being told, you have high cholesterol. I had tried to take a statin, even a little bit made me achy. I would put my feet down.
And I have the same issues.
Right.
Yeah.
So CQ10 is a supplement you should take when you're having it. But there are people that are statin intolerant. And so you do need to change what you're taking. So I just said, okay, listen, I don't want to take a statin. There's side effects to it. Let me do a calcium score. Let me see. My calcium score was 0. It showed that I had no plaque. So why would I take a statin? Especially because I came from parents that would say, there's no reason to take medication. You can do it if you exercise enough. Once again, women not doing enough. If I ate a vegan diet, if I exercised 14 hours a day, if I did it upside down and backwards, then I wouldn't have the cholesterol. I could will it away. I can meditate. I could sit in an earth and right? So I had this high cholesterol, but I didn't have any damage, so I wouldn't take the statin. So I was like, I don't like how I feel. So it turns out that there is a new test called the Clearly, Cleery.
Okay.
And it just is the same amount of radiation that you would have for your calcium score. It gives you that calcium score, but the calcium score only shows hard plaque. It doesn't show soft plaque. And soft plaque is the most dangerous because it's the most unstable. So when they did the Clearly after I had the heart attack, which is a new test that you have, I have about a blended 25% blockage in my heart. Okay. Now, what had happened to me was an aberration. It was a couple of different things that kind of played into what happened with me. But if I saw that I had 25% in my heart, I would have been taking that statin, or I really would have been taking it seriously. So my relationship with my heart has changed. I am going to live far longer because of my heart attack. Thank God, because I am taking the right medication and doing the right exercise. You can't just do a bunch of cardio. Yeah, you might be hurting your heart. So it's a concerted effort, and it's also diet. So many of us think that we're having a healthy diet by eating either a lot of carbs, which, or even green vegetables. If you're not having enough protein, you're getting a lot of sugar, and it just makes more cholesterol. So anyway, so I am putting together a cooking show to show some basic learning tools, because we all want to be healthier, and we just sometimes just don't know how to do it.
No, I would agree with you. I think more information, the right information, because there's
Right.
a lot of noise out there.
A lot of noise.
But being able to cut through it and get some good suggestions
Right.
from someone who's actually been through it.
Right. And that you don't have to be like dragging a wheelbarrow of kale around with you, right? Because it's just, life isn't worth living if I can't have my dessert and my wine and my everything else. And you know what? The thing is that, and also having had a mother that died of dementia, I make a conscious choice every day when I say, what am I going to have that glass of wine? I don't feel as good now that I'm getting off of a lot of the stuff that I probably shouldn't have been doing. I just don't feel as good the next day. It doesn't mean that I won't have it sometimes, but I'm mindful of the fact that it's not good for me. It's not good for my brain. What? Like a piece of cake isn't good for you. You
Conscious
can't.
choices.
Exactly.
Really
Exactly.
matter.
A little
So
bit.
At what point did it go from being something you survived to something that was your
I'm not going to survive. I'm going to thrive.
understood?
Right.
You're going to
Right.
thrive through it. But mostly, like it was your message you had to carry forward, almost like your purpose.
Because my God, I had people telling me this for 6 years.
Okay.
I knew it, and it happened to me, but I was not going to let it take me down. I would be dead. If I let those men walk out that door, I would be dead. It's crazy.
Thank goodness you're Annie
I'm Annie gets it done, baby. No,
got it done.
I got it done. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that. You know what? Anybody, and I was in a plane crash about 20 years ago, and that's another story. But anybody that's had a near-death experience, many people talk about, there's like this euphoria. You're almost like, whew, I'd beat death. And you're like, woo. And then there's whoa.
Yeah.
And so there was definitely that. We were doing breath work at the weekend. And the
I was going to ask you what
Right.
was coming up for you during that.
sobbing.
Yes.
Because it was the inability to breathe. And we carry that trauma with us.
Right.
So anyway, so my message is advocating in every way. It's not just for your heart. It's learning to use your voice and to trust your gut. Those are the two things. Trust your gut and advocate for yourself. And it can carry over in every aspect of your life. But
Did your understanding of what purpose means shift at all as a result of this?
no, I've always had a sense that I want everybody, especially women, to live their best life, to share information. And again, like talking about social media, oftentimes I'm on Instagram and I'm like, oh, okay, just wore a blue boot and a black boot and I think that we have to share, not make it so exactly. And so the more we're real, I just know I feel less alone. Like that people like are not so glossed over and perfect, and that they're having struggles, and a lot of people our age are having health issues. And there was this crazy story. My dad was going through radiation at Duke, very great hospital, and his surgeon was amazing, and everything was amazing until he got to the radiology department. The radiologist was horrible, and my dad has a threshold for pain that it was like this, and he was having radiation on this sarcoma that he had, which would have killed anybody else, and it was burning him. And my mom was saying, he's in so much pain, he's got blisters on his leg. And I'm like, didn't they tell you? And they said, basically, they had to suck it up. So I went on Facebook and I put on, and I'm like, does anybody, it's not like anybody hasn't gone through radiation, right, for cancer. It's like a thing, right? Come on. I put on Facebook, who reaches out to me, but my beloved Maury from Chateau Pharmacy. He says, Ann, call me. Why didn't you call me? I said, what? Why would I call my pharmacist about my dad going through radiation, Duke? And he said, there's an not an over-the-counter, it's a prescription burn medicine that they use on firefighters, and it will help them instantly. Have the doctor. And sure enough, it is the most miraculous thing. He puts it on and it goes away. Sharing, my God. And there's so many people going through mastectomies and different things. And what worked for you? The shirt with the buttons, and we can all help each other. We just have to share, but it has to be sharing what's going on for you in order to get and receive the love, the information, the support.
And what comes to mind for me as a woman is why do you think it's so hard for women to ask for help or to really be open to just sharing from a very vulnerable spot?
Because I think there's so much pressure put on women, and also because we're multitasking. The ball's always in the air. But damn it, we've got to ask for help. Right. Got to ask for help. Yeah. And again, oftentimes people don't know, especially when you're in crisis, you're in grief. There's a book, my dear friend Natalie Silverstein is coming out with a book about how to help people that are caregivers and that are going through an illness. And my friend Allison Camerata, who used to be the anchor of CNN, wrote a beautiful article that was in CNN about when she lost her husband. And it ties in, it's the same thing. When you say to somebody, oh, let me know how I can help. It's, oh my God, I'm already, I'm drowning here. Now I have to come up with something for you to help me with. You got to step in.
Be specific.
Be specific. Right. Can I drop you off some food? Can I pick your kids up? Would that work? Or can I do this?
I think what that does is it not only gives us permission to say yes, it also is intentional. And I think like what my experience that people who are grieving or struggling in some sort of situation, their minds are already somewhere else. And for them to stop and think, I got to give you some instructions, it's really too much to ask.
It's too much to ask.
And yet,
and it's already hard enough to ask in the first place.
Yes, and yet I think like for a lot of women, they think that all they have to do is ask. Let me ask if you need help versus let me just tell you what I can do and see if that will help.
And you know what? Oftentimes people will say, wouldn't matter. I think the inner voice is, if I send that text, that email, God forbid, pick up the phone. Because again, you want to just say, I think when you lost your sister, I'm like, do you want to talk? And I'm just talked out. And then there was a time when you wanted to talk. So you want to be like not push into somebody, but people often think that their actions, their words are not going to be meaningful.
Enough. Right.
Or at all.
Yeah.
And it's not true, because how often do you say, when that person sent me that handwritten note, or when they reached out and I hadn't heard from them, it meant so much.
You're right.
And pick up the phone, call, like just say, I'm thinking about you, touch base. I mean, words and actions especially matter.
Yeah, I always appreciate how thoughtful you are. It's really
Thank you.
Something. So your work with Wise, Wonderful Women, and now your Heart Healthy cooking channel feels like an extension from this lived wisdom. So how do you see food as a part of heart healing beyond nutrition?
Listen, this is not something that happens overnight, because I went to a Boost Your Immunity workshop. And I have to have the 14 servings of fiber, and I've got to be able to do my green leafy vegetables in the rainbow of colors, like in my spare time, right? Oh my God, this is so overwhelming. So finding a way to do that in a way that is progress, not perfection, right? That it's going to taste okay. Now, what tastes okay for me and what tastes okay for my sister, two different things. But then knowing, okay, that's what Ann did, so this is what I can do, or putting it in a shake, or blending it up, or something like that. So I do feel so much better. I just feel better. And I think the more you feed your body the things that it needs, you feel better. But it is a bitch to get away from the sugar every night. Yeah. That for me was the most difficult. It was the sweets, the dessert, And again, not to say you're not, I'm like, I feel like one of the Kardashians, who's the one that's married to Travis, right? Holy shit. Like, I can't, like, a vegan, everything, like, the kid, like, can't, whatever. My kids probably think that I am that mother that never allowed them in their entire life, in the first 21 years of their life, never allowed them sugar. It's not true. But when you start to wean yourself off of it, because it really isn't good for you, you feel better.
Yes.
So the results are there. And it's the same thing with meditation. So that food and meditation have absolutely changed my life. Meditation, TM, you are, meditation
Yeah, I'm a
is,
daily practicer.
right.
Yeah, it
And
really is a game changer.
one day you just realize I didn't flip,
Right.
or I'm feeling more steady.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of tough conversations all day long with the crazy. I used to feel it here. I used to feel it here.
Wow.
And those are the hormones that are racing through my body that are killing me.
Yeah.
They're not
Right.
good. They're feeding to God knows what.
Yeah.
But when I can have the difficult conversations, but not feel it, not have my everything racing, that's what meditation does.
Yeah, I feel like what it's done for me is it's changed my relationship with my nervous system. It's really allowed my nervous system to feel safe with me. Because my whole life, certainly navigating lots of decisions with certain life events, I always felt like I had to brace myself. That's what I feel like.
That's because you had a lot of shoes dropping.
Yeah.
You had a lot of being blindsided all the time. Boom. So that would be
And I
natural.
think like meditation has allowed my nervous system to finally be like, now I'm okay. With
Right.
her, I'm okay.
With the crazy going on.
Yes,
Right.
and with the craziness
Right.
going
Right.
on,
Exactly.
because I know
Exactly.
how to just be and
Right.
be through that.
A friend of mine's going through divorce, and he was talking about what she was doing. What I said, no, center. Doesn't matter what she's doing.
That's right.
Stay centered.
That's right.
There you go. Crazy can be going all around
And it
you.
will. And it
There's a
will.
thing that I want to come back and talk to you about later is the pulsetto, which I'm going to try because I've heard from 3 different people that I really respect in terms of talking about your nervous system. Meditation, 100%. It's your vagus nerve also. And the vagus nerve, when it gets riled up, releases all kinds of hormones. But there's a little machine that you have around your neck, and you're supposed to just use it for 12 minutes, and it calms everything down, and it also helps you sleep if you wake up in the middle of the night. So I've just ordered 2 of them.
Okay.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Oh, I would love to hear that. Something else that's a red light based system that is designed to do the same thing. But it's really, I think, between meditation and finding a way to really affect the vagus nerve is a great game changer when it comes to just calming down.
And also for heart health, you got to make sure to get good sleep because that is really important. So magnesium, there's Thorn. I've just started to use it. It's called like a deep sleep. It's a powder. You have to be careful about melatonin and heart. If you are on any kind of heart, anything, there's heart interactions with melatonin, even low doses of that. So you got to be
Understanding
careful.
the interactions between supplements and
Yeah, supplements are not just all healthy.
I think that's the thing we have to remember is that they can interact.
Right.
With
A great functional medicine doctor. Because strangely enough, you've got your cardiologist, you've got your GP. No one is speaking to each other. They just don't. They just don't. And it's your job to navigate, to put this together. But there is this wonderful functional medicine doctor. She just had a baby, but she's Dr. Caitlin Stahl. She'll be back in March after her baby. She's in Connecticut, and it's out of pocket. But she connects the dots, and she's so smart. I love her.
It's good to have good people in helping you. So if a woman is listening and wants to support her heart health, but feels overwhelmed or afraid, where would you invite her to start?
You could come to the Wise and Wonderful Women. So we on our website, actually, we have all of the past speakers. So you can learn about your vagina, you can learn about meditation, but you can learn about heart health. And also, there been a famous author wrote a book about your nervous system and what your diet is. She's a very successful doctor and writer. So you can look at those past video libraries on the Wise and Wonderful Women's website. Obviously, if you want to me, the meetings are free. They're held at Hudson Yards. They're for 80 women. But you've got to get a good cardiologist. Unfortunately, many of them are out of pocket, and people will say, I don't know, it's expensive. And I'm like, you know what? Having a stroke or having a heart attack is really expensive. That's what really expensive is.
Pay now or pay later.
And a lot of people don't realize that heart health also has to do with strokes. Strokes under the guise of heart disease, and that 1 out of 3 is heart attacks arrhythmias, embolisms, strokes, but we've got to take it seriously.
Yes, we do. And besides getting really good information and doctors in your corner, what are some daily practices that
Meditation,
meditation?
cardiac, you gotta do cardio. You have to.
But the right kind doesn't.
So I was doing actually I was doing spin class and my heart was up to 150. I'm like, great, I'm really pushing my heart. Well, I'm really hurting my heart. I'm really hurting my heart. So it's a combination of your weight, your age, and then if you've got any cardiac issues in terms of how hard you should take your heart rate up. The Apple Watch is really key, but the Apple Watch 8, the 8 series or lower, like 6, 7, and 8, have a different heart monitor on them that they were not supposed to have. I guess it was a trademark issue. So now from 9 up, they don't have it. So get an older Apple Watch. Okay. That I always use when I am working out to make sure. And it's also what I happen to have with me when I was traveling, where I was able to see that my heart rate was up to 180. I would always take an Apple Watch with you. Buy one, have it, always have it with you.
Sleep's important, right?
Yeah, sleep, meditation, what you put in your mouth, and cardio.
Okay.
And also having to do with not only staying alive longer, but they're also tying it to brain health and heart health, is to do strength training. So it's not just about cardio. You really need to be working your muscles and strengthening those, and agility, because we don't want to fall. So you want to be able to movement,
right?
movement.
Mobility.
And listen, it can be walking. You can find a way to get your heart going, but you got to get it going.
Sure, that's right. There you go. Now, in regards to the heart as an energetic center, like something that's really known for the home of emotion, how would you describe the heart space and all that it holds for you?
God, it's just gratitude. I feel like if you have 10 categories, right? You've got your family and work, and if you are wealth or financial freedom, whatever it is. But let's say there's 10 categories. So the one thing that I don't have right now is a soulmate, right? So there's the gratitude, though, to say, if you're missing 1 or 2 or 3 out of 10, my God, you've got 7. Because when I sit there and I go, you can focus on what you don't have, or every day when you wake up. So my heart is so full. I am so lucky to the job that I have. Like, I love every day. Somebody said to me in the gym, are you addicted to your work? Because I feel like I'm addicted. And I said, addiction to me is bad. Like, an addiction is something that harms you. Do I work a lot? Do I have it in my mind a lot of the time? Yes, absolutely. 100%. Do I love it? Do I feel excited by it and so grateful for it? Yeah. So my heart is full. And so that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
I can see that knowing you. And to me, addiction is distortion. And so being passionate about your work and loving what you do is very different from the distortion.
Is it harming your relationships? Is it harming your health?
Right.
Is it, and listen, there is definitely work to be done. My kids will point it out, put the phone down, or I've gotten much better about that. My kids were distraught when I almost died. And they kept saying, you've got to roll this back. You've got to not do that. And for a period of time, there was where I had to sit. Didn't last very long. It was like a week or two and not do as much. And then I'm like, guys, listen, you know what? Like, I got to live my life. Like, I'm healthier now because I have awareness and because I'm on the right medication and all these good things. But I got to live my life. And
would you say that caring for your heart taught you that about how you want to live going forward?
I'm not afraid to die. Just would never want to be incapacitated. So that I want to stay. I think for anybody that I've spoken to that has had a health scare, and a lot of women that have had cancer, and the first thing they think of is, I got to stay alive for my kids, no matter how old they are. It's not like toddlers. I just want to be here as long as I can for my girls. But I also want to instill in them that advocating for themselves and sticking up for what they know is right for themselves, most importantly, and creating community and giving back and all of those good things.
Being able to stay connected, I think being of service.
What's your legacy? Like, how are
or
people going to
legacy.
remember you?
And I think your girls, through this experience, have grown, I
Right.
imagine, to know like self-advocacy
Right.
is really the way to go. And they got to see it in action. Best teacher.
And people fuck up. You got to check it.
But more importantly, like for you to say to them, hey, I will do my best to be still. However, I've got to live my life. And that is such a huge statement because it gives them permission to do the same thing for whatever there is left.
And I said to them, because when I do get up in the morning sometimes, because we don't just jump out of bed and say, I just cannot wait to get on the treadmill. Yay. But a lot of the choices that I make are for my girls, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to be here for them.
Appreciate that, yeah.
And I've said to them, and then they said, God, Mom, it sounds like you're being like so morbid that I want you to know that I'm doing everything I can to stay alive for as long as I can. And that if I don't, and if something happens to me, just know that because I love you. But when I go, I'm good and I'm watching over and I'm going to watch over and
You, your mom,
hover.
okay.
I'm going to continue to hover from the afterlife.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, they are
You know
so-
what? The coolest thing is that when we had our women's weekend and to be able to, how will we be remembered? And my mom was awesome. And to see the little things in my life that I carry forward, and that's the best possible way to know that you lived a life of purpose and a life of meaning, to have you live in the actions, the positive actions, because there's a lot of stuff that we bring from our dysfunctional families that like are not so pretty, right? We're like, no, we gotta, oh my God, my dad did that. I swore I would never do that. And what am I doing? But the wonderful things, the things that bring other people joy and comfort and kindness. And
certainly got to participate in that weekend. That was a great weekend just to witness women connecting and to know you brought that together. That's so amazing.
it was
So
very
amazing.
cool. It was very cool.
Very cool. So let's talk about how people can find you, how people can learn more about heart healthy information.
So February is Heart Health Month, and I don't know when we were going to be looking at this, but there's a survivor. It's called the Circle of Red. So the American Heart Association here in New York and actually nationally has a separate group called the Circle of Red, and it focuses on women's heart health because it is so important. Do you know that it was not until the mid 90s that they started to do research on women at all? What the hell? They were only testing men. And you know what? In case you didn't know, men and women are different. I know you didn't know this, but I'm just letting you know. So it used to all be on men. And so it's now we're playing catch
So
up.
all of our treatment was based on
Exactly. Oh,
Right.
how about estrogen? It's crazy. Anyway, so it's now called the Circle of Red. So it's just focused on women. Also just birth control. So there's a survivor series, a survivor group. So I'm part of that too. And it's the 2026 Survivor. And there's 15 of
It's
us.
an event or
Well, there's 15 of us that will be available to speak at anybody's, like your temple, your women's group. You want me to come to your office. But there's 15 of us that are available to speak around the city.
how do they get that?
American Heart, they can reach out to me. If you Google Annie Gets It Done, there's more than enough information about how to find me. The Wise and Wonderful Women's website has all of those past events that we've had. So you can go on there and then you can sign up also to reach out to me for the free events. And so, yes. And
And then they can follow the Wise and Wonderful Women channel.
yes. So when you were interviewed as well, so there's a podcast called The Wise and Wonderful Women, and it's basically real stories, and it's women sharing their stories. And God, I sit down with women and I never know what's going to come out. And it's awesome. And they're only 15 minutes.
conversations, right.
They're just little vignettes and you learn from them, you cry with them. It's great. Yeah, there's,
Cooking healthy.
well, that's going to be on the Wise and Wonderful Women too. And anyway, just, you know what? I'm out there. Just like Google me. Annie Gets It Done. You'll see it. Wise and Wonderful Women. Annie Gets It Done. You'll
And
find
then
me
you have this event coming up on the 17th.
on the 17th.
That's
Yes.
dedicated towards heart health.
Yes. And then actually in March, we're having the woman that does the boost your immunity system. She's a wonderful functional medicine doctor on breast health.
Okay.
And then in April, we are having the fabulous Emma Hemming Willis, who's Bruce Willis's wife. And she's written a book called The Unexpected Journey about caretaking and dementia.
amazing.
And she's been a friend since before she was married to Bruce, and I'm just so proud of her. Mother of 2 young girls, and going and doing and just doing on a big level. So she's going to be speaking in April. So anyway, it's great.
I really appreciate you coming. I know you're a very busy woman getting everything done. So grateful you could be here on She Asked, the podcast where healing meets practical hope. And I'm your host, Anna McBride. I'm glad you joined us. And until soon, be well.
Love it.